Yo, if you're in your 20s, I got 5 books that you must read before you hit 30. Let's go. What up, though? It's Rasta White. In today's video, I gotta share with y'all these 5 books that have changed my life. You gotta read them. If you're in your 20s, this video can save you years of trouble, years of headache. Now, I'm 20, I'm about to be 27, okay? And these books have literally taught me lessons that a lot of wise men reaffirm to me. A lot of wise men give me advice, and I hear things that I've read in one of these 5 books, okay? So, let's get straight into it. We're going to start with the first one. The One Thing by Gary Keller. If I'm being 100 with y'all, 100%, 100, this might be the most impactful book I ever read. Why? Because The One Thing talks about focus. It talks about making your life easier. It talks about it negates so many myths that we have, that we believe as entrepreneurs, that we believe even in our academic fields, that we believe even as people seeking a career, right? It's a lot of things this book cover, a lot of myths. For example, that you're supposed to work 1,000 hours a week, right? That's one of the myths that we think in order to be successful, you need to work 100 plus hours a week. That is so far from the truth. And I tell you, this book has helped me narrow down my schedule to literally 3-4 hours a day working on my YouTube channel. I'm also a college student. My grades look good. It has helped me create a schedule where I could spend time with my wife and my daughter pretty much most of the day, on top of the fact that I can be just as, if not more, productive than the average person in my field. Why? This book talks about the one thing. What does the one thing mean? What is the one North Star that you want to follow, right? It goes that deep, but it also get narrowed all the way down to what is the one thing that you can focus on right now? What is the one task that you could prioritize right now in order to move on and get what you need to get done, right? It talks a lot about how we could spend 8 hours working, doing this, doing that, XYZ, whatever, and we haven't got the most important tasks done, right? Or we prioritizing things that shouldn't be prioritized, right? We got a whole to-do list, when in reality, if you got 10 things on your to-do list for the day, after reading this book, you'll realize only 1 or 2 of them things is actually important, okay? So many things seem like threats throughout the day, tasks that we need to get done. But in reality, it's literally a few tasks that if you find a way to always build the habit to do the one thing that matters and everything else is easier. No, this the question that it asks, that I ask myself literally every single day. What is the one thing I can do in which by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? Check that book out. I'm telling you, it'll change your life. Now, number 2, Atomic Habits by James Clear. I actually got referred to this book from listening to a lot of Eddie Pinero motivational videos. I heard him mention it a whole lot of times. Now, this book, Atomic Habits, what this would do is it'll help you start developing habits in a realistic way, okay? Like New Year resolution, I'll use that for a perfect example. We go into the new year what? Thinking that we're about to develop all of these habits overnight. It doesn't work that way. If you have a diet that you're not proud of, I'm sure that in one day you won't develop the habits of a vegan. It doesn't work that way. For example, this book would tell you to do something simple as, instead of trying to go from this diet to 100% vegan, how about we cut one meat out? How about we cut out, beef? How about we cut out pork? That's it for now. Just cut out one beef. As a matter of fact, not even cut it out. How about we just try to eat it less and avoid it? Instead of trying to do all of this overnight cold turkey stuff that usually does not work. I don't know about you, but I've tried so many times throughout my life going cold turkey with this, cold turkey with that, always to find myself relapse. You always find yourself going back to where you were because you're sitting there and you're trying to do stuff overnight cold turkey, which it has a negative effect on your mental. It has a negative effect on how you look at things. There's nothing wrong with having dessert, right? But when you go cold turkey, I'm never eating cake again. It's like you literally just planted a negative seed in your mind. So every time you see cake, you either gonna run or it's gonna suck you in. Like, it's been 3 years since I had a piece of cake. You know what? You go for the cake, right? And then you beat yourself up. You feel bad. You feel terrible. When in reality, you should have never had that outlook in the first place. You should have started developing habits to eat less cake, developing habits to eat more fruits, eat more vegetables, right? It's this reverse way of looking at habits rather than just thinking you can form them overnight, because it usually don't happen that way. I give you another one out this book. It talks about how it takes 66 days to form a habit. I know y'all have heard 21 days, 14 days, whatever people say, but how many habits have you done for 21 days and somehow they just fleed and got lost in the wind, right? 66 days sound more about right. If you could do something for 66 days in a row, I guarantee you'll get to a point to where you do it without having to think about it. You'll be so disciplined to where going to the gym or going for that walk in the morning or making your bed in the morning, it doesn't bother you at all. Like, I've been making my bed every single day for years. There's never a point now where I wake up and I don't feel like doing it, right? I've developed a habit of making my bed every single day. And years of doing it, shout out to the Navy, I kind of formed that habit from being in there. It's easy now. It's an atomic habit that turned into a big habit. Also, the summary of this book is kind of like, it's called Atomic Habits, meaning how small daily habits can lead to big success. Okay. So check this book out, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Now, number 3, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. This book right here. This is one of my favorite books as well, because this book not only teach you how to become a better salesman, teach you how to become a better person, how to win friends, right? How to influence people, right? But it also teach you how to nurture those relationships in your life that you may struggle with. Marriage, for example. It teach you how to talk to your partner. If you got kids, it teach you how to talk to your kids in a way where you can win them, in a way where you can influence them. Not in a negative way, but in a positive way, a way that you can empower your kids, empower your partner to take actions that you know is beneficial for both of y'all, right? How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's taught me that, like, for example, it's one chapter in there I always remember. It say, whenever you're about to criticize somebody, no, I'm gonna say it this way. It say, how to win an argument. The best way to win an argument is don't have one. All right? Don't have the argument. Like, avoid it at all costs. Meaning, let's talk about solutions. Let's talk about positive stuff. Let's talk about anything other than a back and forth argument. I'm not perfect. I'm getting there. But this book has helped me so many times with having conversations with my wife, for example, when it's a critical conversation, when it's uncomfortable. It has helped guide me. Sometimes, your emotions get the best of you and you just it kind of take over. But this book right here will remind you things to keep in mind when you're talking to your kid about the game they didn't play good in, when you're talking to your brother about a problem an issue that you've had with them for a while that you haven't addressed, right? How to Win Friends and Influence People. I'm telling you, it will change your life. Go check that out. Number 4, I was listening to some of this today. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I'm sure you've heard a lot about this book right here, written in 1930. How to Win Friends and Influence People was written in 1930 as well. This is another book where it's knowledge in here that I think that I think is eternal. What I mean by that, I think it's timeless knowledge in here. That I don't care how much time go by. The gems that are dropped in here, you can apply to your life at any time as a human being. In 1,000 years, you could read Think and Grow Rich, and you can learn something out of it. I bet money on that, right? So, for example, I want to talk about one big topic that in this book has really changed my life. And it's called Think and Grow Rich. But it talks a lot about love. It talks a lot about romance. It talks a lot about becoming a better person. It talks a lot about passion. One chapter in here is called persistence, right? And in this chapter, I remember one time I was down. I was disappointed when I was doing real estate, and I just felt so discouraged. I was ready to just throw it all away. Called my brother Terrence up, Terrence Fagan. I called him up like, bro, I need some advice. Like, I feel like I'm finna give up. I'm burnt out. I'm tired, right? And he said, bro, you know what you need to do? You read Think and Grow Rich, right? I'm like, yeah. He like, you need to go back to the chapter persistence. I'm like, all right, bet. So I went back to the chapter, and I remember reading it said, like, it said, no one can have success. I'm paraphrasing, but no one can have success in any calling. Any calling. I don't care if you play basketball. I don't care if you cook. I don't care if you bake. I don't care what you do. It said no person can have success in any calling without the trait of persistence. Not giving up when circumstances aren't going your way. Not giving up when you feel discouraged. Not giving up when you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. It empowers you to keep moving. And that's the biggest lesson I've been learning in my life. As of this year, at the age of almost 27, like, no matter what I do, a lot of people, they jump from thing to thing. They jump from gift to gift. They jump from path to path. And they always think like, oh, this ain't for me. This ain't for me. That ain't for me. But in reality, you just ain't passing the persistence test. Okay? Anything that you do in life, there's going to be a test of persistence. Like, there's no way around it. And that's one thing I've been learning. Persistence is a skill or a trait that you must develop in order to be successful. Okay, so Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Go check that out. And last but not least, the first book I ever picked up when I was 22. What I mean by picked up, the first book I myself went on my way to pick up. Not something that school made me read. A book that I myself got the influence. I was compelled to read. Okay. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Okay. If you follow my channel, I'm more about spirituality. I'm more about mental health. I'm more about that rather than just money. Like, you don't just see me just talking about money all the time, because I believe if you get your spiritual side right, you get that spiritual power going, you get your mental right, money is going to come, right? We ain't chasing money over here. So if you listen to this and you follow me, I'm not a person that's going to ever tell you to chase money. I'm all about chasing purpose, right? This book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, though, it opened my mind to a new perspective. In short, it talks about the difference between the rich people mindset and the poor people mindset. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Robert Kiyosaki, he had his real dad, who he refers to as his poor dad. He had a PhD. He was the head of education in Hawaii. He had a lot of good things going on for him, but he always was struggling for some reason. Now, his rich dad, who was his best friend's dad, was there to mentor him and coach him. He had, an 8th grade education or something like that. And this man was growing wealthy. And Robert pretty much was trying to figure out, what is the difference between my dad and him? Like, my dad got a PhD. This man ain't even got a high school diploma. You feel me? But it seemed like he is living wealthy and he is not. So he pretty much got those two perspectives. He studied both his dads. And in his book, he shared a breakdown. He shared a breakdown of the different mindset, the different ways they think, how rich people talk different from poor people. And he just really go deep with it. And this book really will change your perspective about money and about life. He also talk about emotional intelligence in there. He talk about taxes, a lot of things that a lot of us middle class and poor class people, we do not know. Okay. So check this out as soon as possible. So those are the 5 books that I recommend you must read before you hit 30. But since you stayed to this point in the video, I got to give you a bonus. I got to. You feel me? It just feels right. The book of Job, okay? The Bible is a long book, so I ain't just going to say the Bible. I'm going to be specific for you. The book of Job. I remember I was like 14 or whatever, and my dad told me to read it. Did I read it? No. But fast forward, I always remember that was a book he used to always talk about. In fact, I got a brother named Job. And then I just finally said, you know what? Let me go ahead and read this book. This book is very powerful, especially if you're a Christian. It's a must read for you. In summary, Job was a perfect, upright man, according to God. And Satan, pretty much, not even Satan, God referred Job to Satan. God was like, have you considered my servant Job? Like, I see you doing your works on the earth and blah, blah, blah. He said, but I got somebody on earth who is perfect, who's a believer in me, who has undying faith. And I believe no matter what you do to him, he would still have faith in me. The devil, like, I already bet. He said, but you can't kill him. You can do whatever you want to do to him. You can't kill him. Long story short, the devil strips this man of everything. I'm talking about his property. He owned farms, his crops, and even took his kids, bro. Even took people he loved away from him. Only people was left was him and his wife. Like and throughout the whole story, he just kept his faith. And I ain't even gonna spoil it. I want you to go there and read that book. It really embodies how suffering is our gateway to success, how God intends us to suffer, and there's something bigger on the other side, okay? The Book of Job, go check that out. I appreciate you for making up to this point in the video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, all that good stuff, right? And if you have any books that you recommend that you have read, put it in the comments below. I would love to check that out. If you got any books that you've read, that you've learned different lessons out of, please put those in the comments below and share it so people can get a better, more perspectives, broader analogies, and blah, 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 and all that good stuff, all right? I'm Rasta White, and peace out.